Welcome everyone to Incredible Display. This is a deck profile series where we highlight some of the really cool decks that were really close to making top cuts. I'm Constantine, Pringlesman123 on the Discord, and today I'm joined by Harry McGhin, who got 15th place with his Fire Big Mouth Titan deck at the Chelmsford Regional. I think I fucked it up.
So close again, yeah. Chelmsford.
So
Close.
I didn't prepare enough for that one, but I did prepare for the Universus talk. So we're going to dive into that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, usually the way I want to start these is just, big picture going into this event. What is it that made you pick Big Mouth Titan?
So it all stems from, it was last year, there was a Sheffield regional, and it was the pre-release of the first Attack on Titan set, and I got Big Mouth, so I played him, and I was like, this is really cool, getting to recycle attacks basically every turn, and it was Horse Toss, which is obviously life attuned, but being able to play that on Big Mouth in the pre-release and just pick it up every turn and just chuck an 11 damage throw at someone. So that's kind of where it came from. And then I realised Besiege was a card, and I was like, oh my god, I can put this in the deck and I'll just have to deal with a 6 damage Besiege every time. And if I'm drawing more and finding more Besieges, that's if they don't have answers to it, they just die. So that was kind of the selling point for me originally, and then I enjoyed it so much that I thought, let's look at the new juice and see what can go into him.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, we do see a couple of new cards showing up in this. And before we start talking about the individual cards, I always want to ask, what is the game plan for your list? You kind of talked about it with the Besiege, but how exactly are you winning the game? What are your strings looking like? What is the end of the game looking like?
So what I found quite a lot was opening with Attack Titan's Haymaker. Just that stun to, sometimes it would get through. I think most of the times people had answers for it because they were expecting to see it a lot. But just that stun to opener, deal with this. And then Lethal Slash, which is, my friends tried to talk me out of running 4 of them, but because of the 2. But because it clears progressive on a symbol like fire, it is so valuable. And there were times where I didn't have the juice, but I had a Besiege and a Lethal Slash. So I was able to play the Lethal Slash second. They were like, oh, okay, here comes the big juice now. He's going to start throwing attacks at me. So I'll let the Lethal Slash hit me. Then I would just stuff the Lethal Slash into my momentum for later to string out later in the game. And yeah, defeating the Colossal Titan was incredible into Rodan, who I played. I played twice, and it was surprisingly a very good matchup into Rodan, just causing him to tap out on things like Besiege, because big squishy like Rodan is, he can't afford to take that 6 damage that Besiege is shipping out, so he's fighting to block these, and then I just go, here's a defeating the Colossal Titan, I'm going to powerful it 4 times and you're just dead because you're a squishy boy. So that was defeating the Colossal Titan was the kill card in this deck.
Yeah, and yeah, it just sounds like you had a very wide array of attacks that also were just really difficult to block. And so, it sounds like that.
Well, yeah, this is the thing with Besiege and Attack Titan's Haymaker. If they don't have the cards in hand, they just take the damage, right? Like, there's no way around it. That's just 6 damage on a 3 diff. Like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. And so I guess moving into the attack lineup, so we've already discussed some of the standouts with Besiege, Haymaker, defeating Lethal Slash. There's some that catch my eye. So I guess starting off with a Hollow Escape, because I honestly didn't know this was a card.
No, and it's one of those where it was, I was building the deck and I was like, right, let's just look at some 4 diffs and see if any of them are worth anything. And I think one of the big things on this card is the EX2. But also that response to selectively snag momentum or draw a card. And this helped me, as I was saying earlier, I'll get onto it one of the other cards as well, but defeating the Colossal Titan. So I was able to stuff momentum during these strings to then go, okay, I now have 4 momentum. This attack is now a 7 high, an 11 high for let's do the maths, 20 damage.
Jeez. And
you're tapped out, so you just die. So collecting the momentum along the way on that response was really helpful.
And just wondering throughout your tournament experience, how often would you end your strings with defeating the Colossus Titan? Would you be playing this on like an 8 or a 9 to close out games, or?
I think in my Rodan matchup, which was round 5 against Steven, Quite like amazing player, but yeah, I checked on a 10 because I was just like, this is just how I'm going to kill you. You are just dead at this point because Rodan is so good at blocking and so good at chain blocking, but eventually it gets to that point where this is 11 speed and that is just too fast for even Rodan. So that was game 1. And game 2 he actually sideboarded in some aerial goblin bolts, and the exact same thing happened. I was 1 damage off, I went to powerful and he cancelled the powerful with the aerial goblin bolt. So when a deck is making Rodan think about what they need to do to stop it, I think that is a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes to the strength of it. And then I guess moving on to the next kind of standout attack, I saw Charring Flurry in this list, and I was like, hold on, this is a cook.
It's so good. Because obviously you snag the momentum for free, right? So straight away that is, okay, I'm going to seal your 2 things that I don't want you using straight away. And I used this, this was a sideboard piece at my first event with Big Mouth. And I liked it so much that I put it in the main board literally the night before the event. I originally had 2 Titan Grasps, which I think are in my sideboard now, which is the 8 damage throw. But I was able to my friends persuaded me basically to put the Charring Flurry in, and it honestly got Genkai'd more than I played it.
Really?
As soon as I put it down, people looked at it, went, and then Genkai'd it. Probably 3 or 4 times over the course of the day. And then, sorry, go on.
Would it be your first form when they were Genkaizing it, or like where in the string would it be?
Oh, yes. So literally, first card I would play so basically it was my answer to things like nonagons and things like VMEs and condescending explanations and things like this. So playing this card just let me continue my strings and lack of disruption, right? Because my main worry was, okay, I'm going to play some of these really cool cards like defeating the Colossal Titan, and they can be completely tapped out, but they can still have a nonagon up, and then that goes my game. I just can't do anything now because you've sealed this really effective move. So yeah, it would always be the first card I would play just to see what they would do more than anything.
Yeah, and that's crazy, just the strength of it, that they were just Genkai's it straight up.
Yeah, and I think that's and the commit and freeze of the sealed foundation or asset is insane. It is so good to say you don't have that this turn or next turn. So even if you survive this turn, you don't have that nonagon again next turn. It's a cracked card, and I don't know why it doesn't see more play.
Yeah, like when I was thinking about it in your list, I feel like it's kind of like your Chimera Kraken, right? It's your opener 5
exactly
diff.
that.
Yeah, and I'm going to commit and freeze your best one, and I get to seal something else too.
Yeah. So and the joys of, and it does just say non-character cards, so you can seal and commit and freeze backups. Not backups. Sorry, you can seal backups with the top enhance, but not you can't commit and freeze it. But yeah, it never happened, but that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's there if you want it.
That is pretty sweet. And then on something else that I had a question about with the attack lineup is it seems there's just like a lot of 2 ofs in this attack lineup, and I was curious if there was any of these that you would want to bump up to 3 of or 4 of.
What I would probably so the thing is, it would probably be Hollow Escape, unfortunately, that I would cut for another Quick Burn and Rapid Speed Slash, because the powerful on Quick Burn, having a 4-diff with powerful 3 is surprisingly useful. And yet again, this is going into my game plan that I mentioned earlier, stuffing momentum along the way for that defeat in the Colossal Titan. So Rapid Speed Slash, that's a free draw or a free momentum, right? And then 9 out of 10 times I'm saying Quick Burn, I'm going to name attack on the top of my deck just to guarantee my next check, if anything else. If not, I get momentum. So that defeating the Colossal Titan at the end just gets that little bit bigger.
Yeah, and you're checking the 5 if you didn't hit the momentum.
Yeah, it's like baby. What was that foundation from set 1? Destined for mainstream success. It's that on an attack, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with Hollow Escape, it did seem like like extra copies of Rapid Speed Slash, like very similar in how it's a 4-diff that either draws
Yeah,
you a
I
card or
think
gets momentum?
it was purely in there for the EX,
Mhm.
just because momentum is so free in this deck.
Yeah.
That can just kind of be like, okay, I need this to hit, and then I'm going to play a besiege and just hope you don't have the right block zone.
Mhm.
So yeah, a good card, good response, EX.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you didn't have any other stuff you wanted to say about the attack lineup, I was down to keep moving on to the assets, like all the
Yeah,
non-foundation
go
stuff.
for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaving vertical maneuvering equipment off just because, like, we know this card's a good one, right? You make momentum and it does
It's
whatever you
free,
want.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's free.
Mhm. But I see the actions, and a spear and shield just stands out like crazy to me. I love this card.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah. Can you sort of
Uh,
talk through your thought process with it and just some of the synergies it has in Big Mouth?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, again, going back to my first regionals, I played with Big Mouth in Sheffield last year. My whole thing was just, I'm going to just get a hell of a lot of momentum. And something that when you block with it goes to your momentum. I know that there's that weird Mirio promo that does it, but on an action that is also breaker one and also your rival commits a foundation it's cracked, right? Like
Yeah.
those three things put together are just to make for a really good block. And then when you can link that up with vertical maneuvering equipment and just go, okay, this is a mid and I've got a one mid block that is going to ruin your life.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to replace that momentum that I spent for that vertical maneuvering. It's a no-brainer. And I was originally running two, but Richard Plummer, formerly of Universus, now a free agent, he spoke me out of having two and was like, right, run a one, put another one in your sideboard, put another one in if you want it. So I probably would like to run two, but I think that's just me being attached to cards. But yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and then just sort of how often would you loop it at all during the tournament where you spend a turn blocking with it and just get it back with Big Mouth?
Yeah, so I think just having that threat there. So obviously the one of the joys about Big Mouth is that you rarely draw pure grey because you've got something in your momentum from earlier. But for those turns where it was looking a bit shaky and I wouldn't necessarily know what to do, but I've got a Spear and Shield in my momentum, I'll just pick it up and go, I'm going to add this to my hand. And yeah, it's not going to stop them from attacking me, but just them knowing I've got it, it's just something for them to think about, right?
And it's innocuous, but those two foundation, or like the breaker one and the foundation they commit, could be what wins you that game. Like that's the thing that could stop them from winning that turn.
Yeah, and later on in the strings, if they're 3 or 4 attacks in, when you can whack a barrier shield on top of a spear and shield, that's just not fair.
Yeah,
that is not fair. Breaker 3 in essence, and making them commit a foundation, and also I get a momentum from that. Yeah. It's easy.
Yeah, that's super sick. And I kind of left barrier shield out of the questions just because this one is like just a very good action. I think anyone that's been in the game right now, they just know this one. Did you ever happen to use the bottom enhance on this card, or did that never come up?
So I didn't, but my friend who I went with was running Yasha on Void, so he was able to run barrier shields. And the amount of times that I've been playing him down at locals, and that bottom enhance has become useful for him because obviously Yasha's once per game is discard 2 cards. Oh, you've got draw power. Haha. No, you don't. This attack's going to kill you. So I think the bottom enhance is genuinely extremely underrated in itself. And if that was on an action that wasn't barrier shield and it was a 1-diff that said remove, people would be running it. But yeah, I never used it.
Gotcha. And what did your defensive turns look like when you would end your turn? How many cards would you hold in your hand on your opponent's turn usually? Because when I think of barrier shield, obviously this card needs to be combined with another card. Otherwise, its top enhance is not very good.
Yeah. So I would. It's difficult because obviously the barrier is if I'm holding an extra card in my hand normally, it kind of gives away the fact I've got a barrier shield away. But I would probably end a turn with 3 cards in hand, give or take, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on deadlock threat and things like that. Sometimes I'll just build out and go try and hit me. But like I said earlier, I went into 2 Rodans over the course of the weekend, and I was a horrible matchup for him, and we don't know why. And I spoke to both of the guys, Stephen and Kai, and we couldn't figure out what it was about Big Mouth that Rodan found so difficult. But so I played 2 games and 4 games within that, and I think I was only hitting 2 of those games by a character that puts a ridiculous amount of speed on attacks. So we couldn't quite work it out. But yeah, blocking seems to be quite easy for Big Mouth. Obviously, you can put that down to the VME and obviously the barrier shields. But the next action we're about to talk about, Battle for the Future, is a card that I just don't understand why more people aren't running at the moment with how free momentum is.
Yeah, I recall some Ryuku decks before she got errated using this one, and this is essentially a Genkai's guidance as long as you have the momentum to spend for it.
Yeah, obviously you've got the 4 in the corner, which is a bit worse, but who really cares? But in probably 90% of characters that people are running at the moment, discarding 2 momentum doesn't really seem like a cost. And obviously, I know this. So my first game was into a Hanji with Declan, who top cut with Hanji, who's playing the Titans. And I I Battle for the Future, his Beast Titan attacks, the one that he can give throw, because I didn't want to deal with that. And he sent it to the discard pile, obviously, and then he already had the backup of the Beast Titan in his stage, so was able to just go and pick it back up. So obviously Genkai but I got him to use it, so that's what I kept on telling myself. I was like, okay, I don't need to worry about that anymore. But obviously that's the difference between this and Genkai, right? Genkai is gone from the game. I don't have to deal with it anymore.
And I'm going to ask you some more stuff about the actions when we get to the sideboard, as you can see. But the last thing on the non-foundations, like, I got to ask about the Grisha's Attack Titan. I love this card, and I'm just, curious if you liked it as a one-of and just sort of playing a backup as a one-of in your deck.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I started with 2 because one of my game plans the first time round with Big Mouth was, how many different ways can I go and grab a Besiege? I can grab it for my momentum. I can use Urameshi's Perseverance, and then obviously Grisha's came out, and I was like, oh, Besiege is a Fury card. I can go and grab a Besiege. So I was running 2 of, and then my game plan was just, let's go and get Besiege, and then obviously Lethal Slash falls into that category as well, and Lethal Slash is just a fun card to play. But I realised that I probably didn't need it. I think with the Urameshi, it might have been a little bit of overkill. I think having a one of is fine, and it's a 1 low block, isn't it? But I'd say I built it in maybe 1 or 2 games, and it was fine. But I'd probably be looking to cut it if I could do it again.
That makes sense. Yeah, it is a really cool card, but also just having a foundation at slot or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. But obviously, defeating the Colossus Titan is also a Fury. So just being able to go and grab that at some point would be cool. But we're living in magical fairy tale land when I'm talking about
that. Those were most of my questions with the non-foundation cards. If you had anything else you wanted to add about any of the stuff.
Let's have a quick look through it. I think that's virtually everything, if I'm being honest, mate.
Makes sense. And then, next up on foundations. For the most part, I didn't have any crazy questions. Like, a lot of these cards are just like very good. I was a bit curious about how Radiant Visage performed for you over the weekend.
It's actually one of my funny. So, but by game 6, my head was gone after playing cards all day. You're kind of frazzled, and I opened with a hand of 4 attacks and 2 foundations, one of them being Radiant Visage, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I was playing into a Mitchell Camino, and I think it was turn 2 or turn 3 we got to with throwing moves. He's not hit me, but obviously he's reviewed, so he's nagged a momentum. He's got 1 card in hand, and he's got 3. Oh, what's that chaos card that says flip draw? Fearsome transformations. He's got 3 fearsome transformations and a broken psyche out. And this was the first enhance of my kill turn. Just making him spend that momentum. So he didn't have the draw power, so he didn't have the psyche, and it won me the game. Up until that point, I must admit I barely used it, but that card in that game won me the game. So
yeah, one day flip win the game is pretty good.
Yeah, I think most people would be running that.
Yeah. But yeah, like if you have any other specific stuff you want to talk about with the foundations, I know you mentioned Urumeshis.
Yeah, Urumeshis is just insane, right? Because I can do it from turn 1. I can just go and grab anything I want, and sometimes being able to remove it, discard momentum, pick up a barrier shield or a battle for the future, and go, you're going to have to deal with this on your defense, on your offensive turn, is quite funny.
Yeah.
And then I'll speak a bit more about this Rodan matchup because I'm trying to put the pieces together. But Pull from Danger was insanely good against World's Weakest Hunter, because obviously Rodan doesn't put stats on it, doesn't put damage on it, but he can make that 5 speed move an 8 speed move, but it's got 3 damage. So just being able to flip a foundation and go, I'm not going to let you draw 3 cards. I think that was part of the fact I was a good matchup into it. And then also right at the top, 1-man Inferno. As soon as they started stacking their deck, I was just, right, let's mill. Sometimes, and sometimes you'd bait them out. They'd stack their deck and you go, yeah, I don't think we will mill. And then they check a 3 and you're like, ha ha ha, got ya.
I love that mini game.
It's little interactions like that. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But it's such a fun deck to play. If you ever get the chance to play Big Mouth, I'd recommend him.
And I just want to say that, that Pull from Danger interaction into World's Weakest, that is awesome. I like this card just as, staying alive, right? Getting 3 extra health with each one just sounds good. But yeah, your 1-diff cancels World's Weakest. Like, that is great.
Yeah. And this is going back to what I was saying about the last regionals. I was like, okay, I'm going to run Pull from Danger, Funeral Pyres, a load of DR that after I've done my Spear and Shields and my Barrier Shields and my things like that, if they're still throwing stuff at me, I can just go, no, you're not hitting me, or you're not doing as much damage as you should be, which isn't necessarily the approach I took this time. But I just think a flip cost for -3 damage is just very good in itself.
Yeah.
That's the one I kept in.
That makes sense. It's kind of like a half block, depending on what your opponent's throwing at you.
Yeah, exactly. And especially into Rodan, because Rodan is not a damage pumper, is he? So, it was, this is probably one of my favorite foundations within the deck.
Nice. Did you ever get to use the deadlock on it, or?
I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think the deadlock is fine. With Big Mouth, I always struggle with, building foundations. I always seem to kill people when I've got 3, 4, or 5 foundations. So for me to commit something is probably a bigger cost for me than the stun 2 is for them.
Yeah, it's a tall order. We need those to pass our checks.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when I'm running the lethal slashes and I seem to check them every other bloody turn.
Yeah. For most of the other foundations, like I think it just makes sense on a lot of these. Maybe like Exhausted Slumber, we don't necessarily see that often.
I think Fire 0 diffs are just. I was looking through them and it was this or Ignite. And obviously I know I remove cards with Incubating and Lethal Slash goes itself, but this I felt with probably Mitchell Camino being so prevalent in the current meta, having stun hate in some form was better. And it again, with that match I was talking to you about with the Mitchell, this did allow me to block something. So, it had its role, and it can block Besiege.
This is true. We can't look at the 3 block mods like they're bad anymore.
No, they're good. That's where we're at.
Mm-hmm. So like, unless there was anything else we want to talk about the foundations, it seems that a lot of them are just very good cards you'd expect to see.
Yeah, I think the Titan's Pursuit yet again is going into that game plan of I'm going to stack momentum as we go and then hit you with the defeating the Colossus. It was just something else which let me get that powerful off. Yeah, well, a card I did debate, but I got spoken out of it again, was Feral Shriek, because obviously on face my character does the thing, but it didn't quite feel right, and I don't know how to explain it, but it just wasn't quite there for such a expensive and rare card, it seems.
Yeah, and then it is also another 2-diff for your build turns. I was a bit curious if you were fine with the amount of spam foundations you had in your deck for the Lethal Slash.
Yeah, so luckily on the day I didn't actually check the 2
it's too
detrimentally
easy
on a turn 1 build.
Nice.
Just don't check them. I don't know what people moan about. But yeah, I did in my deck that I had going up into the week. So I had different 3-diff foundations in there. So I had the new number 1 at one point. I had Stopping for Breakfast, but I realized that I just don't need them because I'm just going to try and kill you quicker than you're going to kill me. So let's just not run the 3 diffs and do anything stupid.
Yeah. Just make sure you're mostly good on your first turns of the build.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I've been a fan of 1 checks my entire career of playing the game, and I just play the decks that they're in as if they're not in there, and then if I check it, I check it. But if you pretend they're not in there, you might not check it.
That's true. And 2 is larger than 1, so really a 2 check's not that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly. I just need that Lady Nagant foundation on fire, and then we're laughing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The one that when you check a 2 had 1, then I'd be fine. But I can't explain to you how good Lethal Slash is just in general. Like I know it's in a lot of play in things like Pony and Berthold as well, and I know a lot of people were running it in Nick Reagan. But for me to clear progressive in a deck like this is massive, and also draw a card, having draw power.
Yeah,
loved it.
That makes sense. Lethal Slash is definitely one of the good ones. And unless you had anything else you want to say about the main deck, I just had some questions about the side deck because we got a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, we do. Let's do it. Let's go sideboard.
Yeah. And so I guess I want to talk about the actions kind of like in a package because there's so many of them in the side. Yeah. Kind of clumping together the ones in your main deck. So you have the 1 Barrier Shield, the 1 Spear and Shield, and the 1 Battle for Future. I was curious if these were sort of interchangeable with the ones that were already in your main deck, or how you would side these in or out.
So 1 action after game 1 would normally come in for Grisha. And then depending on the matchup, I would bring in a Barrier Shield, Spear Shield, or Battle for the Future. So in game 1, when I was playing against that Hunji with the Titans, I was like, okay, I'm just going to bring in a Battle for the Future so Hunji doesn't get to do Hunji things. Into the matches against Mitchell Camino, I brought in a Spear and Shield because obviously Patchworks are like his bread and butter. So just having that 1 mid block, breaker 1, commit a thing was great into that matchup. And then Barrier Shields against things like Rodan, where they are just pumping that damage. So they all had their place, and then High Speed Dodge was just if I ever feel like I need it, I'll put it in, but I never actually put it in my deck.
Yeah, I mean it's a cancel on a 1 diff, like it's got to come at some point, right? Yeah,
and I think it just, for me, like we were saying earlier about me not holding many cards going into my defensive turns, I didn't want to waste 1 on a cancel.
Yeah, it would have to be something really important that you'd be willing to do.
Yeah,
that, right?
It would have to be a Colossus Thermal Blast. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, yeah.
To flip my only 5 foundations I've got in my stage.
Yeah, I need those.
Yeah, they need to be face up.
Yeah, and then the final action, and it looks interesting as hell to me, seeing I would like to race in the list.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was in there for a couple of reasons. Firstly, you can give Besiege powerful 3, which is just funny. And secondly, you can play this and then play Lethal Slash, and therefore Lethal Slash is the second card you played the turn, so it gets to go.
Oh yeah, and it's on a 4. Wow.
And yeah, so I thought that was funny, and it's a drawer card, right? Obviously, the rage counter stuff doesn't really matter. Yeah, again, never use it. I just thought it might have been funny at some point. I played a grog in the teams event day 2, and I put it in, didn't even see it.
But you had to show them that you were the grog, right? Like this is your
yeah, you're on my ground now. But yeah, it was in there for if it's ever seems right and it could be funny, I'll put it in. But I'm too competitive.
I gotcha. And then I see the new number 1. When was this? When would you bring this in, and what would you side out for it?
So most of the time it was the Titans pursuits that I would side out, just because I realized how much momentum I was generating through attacks and obviously my character himself. And it was for mainly scary Rodans and also the Caminos, because obviously I knew that they would be running a lot of EX and just big, fast moves that I might not be able to deal with. Yeah, again, I think I only sided it in about once or twice, but it did allow me to block a patchwork. So, yeah, again, that's a successful sideboard to me.
Yeah, and yeah, being able to answer the really big moves that people are throwing out with this is a pretty solid strategy.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and then final one on the sideboard. I love Titan's Grasp. I'm just curious as to what would you bring this in, and what would you cut for it?
So, believe it or not, it would actually be the Haymakers, the Attack Titan Haymakers for this.
Really?
Yeah, I think Attack Titan's Haymaker is good. I don't think it's a $50 card. I think it's a back alley with a bit more pizzazz that turns into a foundation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just the Titan Grasp would come in. Like, it came in game 1 against Hunji because Hunji's squishy. Came in against the Rodans because Rodan is squishy. And that was kind of, because like I said, it was in my main board, but I just think Charring Flurry was more versatile into every matchup rather than, okay, I can bring this Titan's Grasp in when I am playing these squishy characters and just make sure this damage is getting through, and make them spend their resources. Like my game against Hunji, this was a 10 damage throw. That's a big hit for Hunji. So then she's blowing stuff up and she's doing all her DR stuff on this first attack for me to go then, defeating the Colossus Titan.
Yeah, and close it out that way.
Yeah, so it's a bait and switch, isn't it? Which is, yeah, it's a scary card.
Yeah, and then looping it with Big Mouth Titan, that's just good.
Yeah, you're going to have to deal with this every turn.
All right, well, if that was, we've gone through the deck. I don't have any more questions unless there's any other thoughts you wanted to share.
I think we've basically covered everything. I think we've gone quite in depth. I like it.
Yeah, we gotta give Big Mouth the respect he deserves.
He is a dreamy boy. I love that man.
Just look at that smile. And then
he's so cute, isn't he?
Of course. And so as we're wrapping up, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any people in your community, or, any people? Yeah, just, leave it up to you.
Yeah, I'll give shout outs to people in Hastings at the Board Game Cafe. I think we're the second biggest locals in England now. So well done, lads. Also, I am on TikTok and I upload very sporadically. But if you want to follow me, it's Hit the Deck on TikTok. So pop over and give me a follow. But yeah, no, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll get the link in the description. For everyone watching, this list had a bunch of sweet attacks in it. Comment your favorite one. Make sure to like the video, subscribe. And yeah, this was a blast talking about it.
Yeah, wicked. Cheers, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later.